It is true that industry is driven by where the dollars are, and there's not much money in urotherapy, but I have a feeling that if somebody could prove it were effective, they would package urine in some fancy way that to make it, cost efficient for industry as well.
I guess people have their own methods or ways to try to market the idea or make a business out of it. But I think basically it's not a lucrative money-making business. And I think except for when you take it to the level of what the medical world has done, and that is to take urine, which is big business, and turn it into pharmaceutical drugs.
I think people are going to actually be able to get money from donating their urine at some point, as drug companies begin to appreciate how you can get growth hormone, insulin, all kind of active pharmacologic substances you can get from urine.
There's a company out of Utica, Michigan that has 10,000 porta potties, and they outfitted all the porta potties with a special filter. And in 1 year, let's see, out of 14 million gallons that passes through their porta potties in these filters, they extract 4.5 pounds of urokinase.
We look at urine as a source for a myriad of products, and these products are all accepted today. We're not inventing products. These products are all being used today in life-saving situations to treat patients. Every product that we look at has in excess of $500 million market now. You can get the same proteins that we harvest by cloning them from your blood, or you can get it from your tears. Or you're not going to give me your blood, you're not going to give me your tears, but you love to leave your urine in a little green portage on. And the things, and the cloning thing is, it costs too much money. These filters are what we use. We place these in toilets, and each one of these filters is designed for a specific resin. This is actually they're all the same in here. They're designed for certain types of resins. And this filter, I'd kiss it if I could, because it really works. We take this filter, place it in the urinal. Now you could leave it there, but most people would shoot to miss the cup. So by doing this, nobody's aware that there's a filter in there. Then in theory, there should be zero protein in the urine that's in the holding tank. The filter, you have to look at like a male and female connection, because what happens is you have the female spot on the resin and the protein comes down and is adsorbed on it. The trick is to elute the proteins that you want without damaging the other proteins.
This is the resin we have here, and the stuff that has come up now in the liquid form, we call that elution of proteins from the resin. And we are trying to filter this stuff, which is our proteins, that is being retained. There is a filter inside, and that's not letting those proteins go outside. What we get from here, a very small sample, it will look like this.
And that's just pure urokinase?
It's pure urokinase.
Today, pharmaceutical companies are only able to purchase 2 million gallons of urine annually, still creating a $500 million market. Whereas EOA, through Porta-John, annually collects 14 million gallons of urine. Once our filter system is placed into the portable toilets, EOA will be on the threshold of a multi-billion-dollar market.
Topical application of urine is one of the major ways that it's used.
If you have a burn area and you put it into a glove and you urinate in the glove, you are creating an artificial incubator for a new layer of skin to grow.
Different skin conditions, they don't even have names. And the people went to one doctor to the other, they cannot get relief. You put urine on there, you start to really soak it in the urine. Tapping it is not enough. You have to really soak it in it. And it's just amazing on how it can start healing.
Urine inside the body is sterile, but left outside the body for some period of time becomes a growth medium for bacteria. And one of the most nutritious substances in the urine, from the microorganism point of view, is urea. They use urea as a source of energy. They break down that urea, and when urea is broken down, it breaks down to ammonia.
Urea, or also carbamide, which it's also known as, is urine. And it's got some tremendous benefits to the body. This is an example of urea, and this is an FCC grade, which is a food-grade urea, so this would be acceptable for human consumption. Looks like a little crystal.
The urea that's in most skincare products is actually synthesized. It's called carbamide, and that material is put into lotions, ointments, gels, creams to condition skin and to improve the ability of the skin to retain moisture.
If you go to some of the higher-end retail stores, you'll find that all of their high-end cosmetics have urea in them. And that's because urea binds with hydrogen and traps moisture into the horny layer of the skin. And it is the only thing that'll do that. So as a humectant, it's excellent.
There is an aspect of skincare that is moisturization, of which urea does that by helping the skin cells bind together and do their job. But then in higher concentrations, in exfoliation, to get the dead skin cells off, urea glycolic acid then functions as an exfoliant. So depending on its concentration, urea, much like alpha hydroxy acids, have two functions in skincare depending on what you want them to do.
The moisturization of the skin comes from underneath, not from on top. So it's our aim is to get a product that goes through the skin into the deep levels and then brings it forward moisturizing. And the urea products produced under Cummo name do exactly that.
If you have compromised or damaged skin, your body actually goes about enzymatically trying to repair that damage. And with urea, it actually comes in and can function as a bacteriostatic material, well-known bacteriostatic property. It's been used in wound debridement agents for a number of years.
The urea that we use in our products are chemicals that are prepared at a factory and then shipped to us in bulk, and then we put it together with moisturizers. It is not from naturally occurring urine, which it could be because of the inability to get standardized material.
Urea has been used to treat cancer, high blood pressure, asthma, you name it.
We're always concerned, how does it work and all that stuff. We don't know how an aspirin works, and yet it's still legalized. You know, you can buy it in any drugstore.
Before I even went to medical school, I heard about people drinking urine. I always thought it was kind of disgusting, but I don't know how to evaluate it. You know, who knows?
You shouldn't be scared to touch your own urine. You know, this is your own part. This is natural from you.
I don't think there is a danger in ingesting one's own urine if you are a healthy person.
The only thing that we recommend is that not to have any chemicals in the body, other drugs.
You really don't need a diagnosis if you're sick. With the urine therapy, you just drink your urine and it will cure it. If somebody is really sick, becomes a vegetarian, and starts urine therapy, I don't care what kind of illness they have, they're going to get well. And if they continue that, they're going to live a long, healthy life.
All over the world, throughout history, urine has been one of the most commonly used medicinals ever. In fact, probably more people have used urine than any other single substance in the history of the world for healing.
In India, they have whole hospitals. That's the only thing they do, just urine therapy.
Morley Safer was on television with the Prime Minister of India, and he made some sort of insult. Said, "Don't you find it disgusting that you drink your urine?" And the Prime Minister made Morley Safer apologize for having said something like that because he just insulted, a couple of 100 million Indian persons who utilize urine as a basic part of their regular daily hygiene.
In China, 3,000 years ago, the older Oriental men and the older Oriental women would drink the young boys' and the young girls' urine. And the reason for that is that, as we know, our urine contains everything, all the components of the body, so the young boy's urine was full of testosterone, which would keep a man young and vital and healthy, and the young girl's urine was full of estrogen, so this would help to keep the older women from aging and keep the collagen levels in their skin and so on.
There are inscriptions also in hieroglyphics on some of the Egyptian remainders, which basically say, be sure to drink your urine every day and don't tell the poor people about it.
Urine was used in ancient Rome as a washing detergent, and they used to collect urine in big stone vases on every corner of the road, and they would bring this urine to the city laundrettes. The Eskimos have used it, and some of them are still using it. Natives of South America have used it, and some of them still do. The Aboriginals were very well acquainted with the use of urine. There is evidence of nomads in the Middle East using urine as a health thing, but also as a washing method. They wash their bodies with either human urine or camel urine.
Native Americans, they used it as a normal aspect for cuts and bruises, and also for the spiritual aspect. They used to send the people out for the journey, for the quest into the desert. You're not allowed to pick anything. You're not allowed to really live off the desert. You have to live in the desert. And of course, you used your urine for that.
It was used to a large extent as a beauty treatment for quite a while in 17th and 18th, 19th century France and Europe as a whole.
In Japan, urine therapy is also growing very fast due to a famous professor. He started working together with a pharmaceutical laboratory, making a product to make morning urine a little bit more accessible. What they did was sort of make a powder which you can mix into morning urine, and it gives the urine a sort of sweet taste.
今、4、5年前の調査では、だいたい200万人から300万人はやっておるというように考えたって、現在はもっと多いと思います。もう1000万人も2000万人にもなっていると思うんですが、世界中で一番多くやられているのはブラジルとかインドとか、あるいは中国とか、いわゆるその医療のあまり普及してない国々ではもうこんなありがたいものはないから、一つの村全体がやっておるともあります。
Doctors, before they had glucose testing, the way they would test for diabetes would be to taste the patient's urine. And if it was sweet, they had diabetes.
In the early days, penicillin was a very expensive medication. I mean, now penicillin has almost become out of fashion, but at one time that was a life-saving drug and was extremely expensive, available in a very limited manner. And people actually used to save the urine of the patients who were getting penicillin therapy to salvage the penicillin that came out in the urine and use it again for its medicinal properties.
There have been reports, not necessarily in the mainstream medical literature, but not outside, not totally outside the mainstream literature, of substances, of compounds, of urinary peptides. These are urinary molecules which in experimental laboratory settings have an anti-tumor-like effect.
The established conventional medical community is not particularly open to anything new. And any researcher, I think Brzezinski is a wonderful example of that, Stanislaus Brzezinski, who came out with the ananeoplastin therapy, which of course is urine-derived, and has had nothing but legal problems with the FDA.
Federal prosecutors claim Dr. Stanislaw Brzezinski, who has drawn hundreds of patients from across the U.S., violated federal drug approval rules and defrauded insurance companies in dispensing his experimental cancer drug known as anti-neoplastons. The Polish-born physician discovered the compound in human urine and now makes it synthetically. He claims it turns off cancer genes by interrupting signals for cells to multiply. The government says he can't prove that. Brzezinski, the government says, thumbed his nose at FDA rules designed to protect the sick and made $40 million doing it.
We are trying to save their life, and against us are bureaucrats for whom their life means nothing.
There's no scientific double-blind placebo-controlled studies, which is the hallmark of good science and good medicine.
You cannot apply for experimental drug permit when something like urine is different with every person. When you have a drug permit, it is always the same drug. Well, urine is always different. Every person has a different urine. So every time with every person, you would have to apply for a new drug permit. So it's kind of, it doesn't fit into our system. The problem with the medical field is that they usually are educated in one way. Okay, they all go to basically the same schools in the U.S. with the same background of education, and what is taught is that urine is a waste. It's toxic. And I have people telling me when I drink my urine, I'm dead in 3 days. And of course, I drank it right in front of him, and nothing happened. And I was still alive years later.
The people who live the longest stay away from doctors. They hardly ever go to visit them.
The researchers themselves, they don't want to be badgered by their peers because they do something with urine. I think there will be a lot of peer pressure not to do it. It's much more hip to do something else, to work on drugs, to do, you know. How can you imagine publishing a paper that you did something on urine? I mean, it will be the rest of your life. You will be that lady, you know, with that study. Like with me, I have written books on urine therapy. They still call me the pee lady.
Doctors would not hesitate to give urine to every patient if it were medication. It again comes from the paradigm of acceptable theory and acceptable practice. Giving one's own urine, whatever the condition, if it's not attached to a drug, is not attached to their education. You have to understand who chairs the departments of pharmacology in medical schools. Pharmaceutical companies. Eli Lilly has a foundation. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars have gone into Eli Lilly Foundation. They then go to a medical school, give you X amount of dollars for a chair in pharmacology. And next thing you know, every medical student's coming in is learning about better ways of dealing with disease with drugs. And certain drugs, certain classes of drugs. And watch if that doesn't tail itself back to some of the things Lilly is manufacturing. Nobody gives money for nothing. And nobody gives hundreds of thousands of dollars to fund these chairs unless they know that their kind of education that will benefit their products are going to get sold.
Doctors themselves have very little access to PR, to publish their findings, to publish their research. And as a result, all of the wonderful documentation that's been done on urine therapy lies unread. And until there is some type of PR basically done on it, doctors are going to continue to ignore it just the way they did vitamins and herbs.